If you've ever said you're building this business for your family while missing dinner again tonight, then this episode is for you. Today, I'm asking you the exact question that my business coach asked me, exposing who was really paying for my success. And the math I now use to make sure it's never my family who is paying the bill again. I built a business with my sisters and have seen the same pattern in my clients. And it took my coach to flat out call me out to fix it in my own life. So let's get into it. Most of the time, when I ask entrepreneurs why they built their business, the majority of them will say the same thing: for my family. Or maybe they'll say, to have a better life. But what does that actually mean? I started my business at age 40, married with 2 kids, a mortgage with plenty to lose, a family where I was the main breadwinner, so a whole life already built around me. My sister Cruz and I looked at each other and said, let's build something that is ours. Something that gives us our time back. Something where we control our own schedule. Sounds nice. Instead of someone else controlling it for us, which is what we hate when we work for somebody else. We didn't start this business to work more. We started it so we could work less, so we could be there for our kids. So, how did we end up working 7 days a week? How did more time with family turn into 24/7 work? I'm Suhey Piedra, a wealth transformational mentor and co-founder of Prominence Business, a tax planning firm that I built alongside my sisters, Cruz and Brisa. This show, this podcast, is where I bring you the hard truths, often the ones I had to experience myself first. As we grew the business and hired one of our many business coaches, I was asked a simple question. Why did you start your business? Easy question, right? I had the answer loaded and ready. For my family, I said very proudly. So that we can have a better life. And she looked at me and said something I still haven't forgotten till this day. She said, funny that you say your family, when in reality, your family is paying the price of you being gone all the time and working 24/7. Every discount that you give, every lowball offer you accept, every yes you hand out to clients, it costs time away from your family. I want you to sit with that for a second, because I had to. That was a slap in the face, a hard truth I was not ready to hear. But sometimes that's exactly what it takes. Someone bold enough to stop us from saying yes to everyone else and stop us from underbilling the very thing we're trying to use to build a better life. Because here's what nobody tells you. When you start a business for your family, if you don't protect your pricing, your family becomes the one absorbing the cost of every corner you cut on yourself. Every discount you give isn't just $1 off your invoice. It's a withdrawal from your family's time. You don't feel it in the moment. It doesn't show up on the invoice or the proposal, but it shows up somewhere in the extra client you had to take on to make up the difference, in the Saturday you spent working instead of at your kid's baseball game, in the 24/7 you swore you'd never live again. That's the cost nobody puts on a line item of the proposal. From that day forward, my prices changed. Discounts went away. And here's the part that really got me. As soon as I'd feel that old urge to offer a discount, because believe me, that urge was still there, I started imagining my kids being the ones who had to pay the price for it. So that image alone stopped me more than any price strategy ever could. But here's the part that's almost embarrassing to admit. Most of the time, clients weren't even asking for a discount. I was just giving my services away. Nobody twisted my arm. I did it all to myself. Why do we do that? I had to really sit with this one. And what I realized is it wasn't about the client in front of me at all. It was really about old beliefs, old conditioning. Some story running in the background that said being reasonable, being helpful, being the one who gives a little extra, that was somehow tied to being a good person or a safe bet, or maybe worth choosing. But that conditioning has a bill attached to it. Underpricing doesn't just cost you money. It costs you time. Because now you need more clients to hit the same number. And more clients means more hours. And more hours means less family. So the exact thing you're trying to protect is the thing you keep trading away, one discount at a time. That's the cycle. And it really doesn't break itself. You have to see it before you can stop beating it. Here's where it stopped being just a business problem and started being a marriage problem. Sound familiar? Because when you're chasing more clients with no actual number attached to it, you're always at work. There's always one more yes to give, one more late night, one more, I just need to finish this. And by the time you get home, you're too tired. You're too tired to even have the conversation with your spouse about why. So you don't. You just disappear into the next day and do it again. The rat race. And your spouse, who loves you, who's on your team, starts to feel like they're competing with the business that has no finish line. Because it really doesn't. Not when there's no clear target. You want your spouse to understand why you're gone all the time, why you're tired, why the business affairs never actually get discussed at the dinner table. But understand what exactly? I'm busy? I'm busy isn't a goal. I'm building something isn't a number. See, you can't expect someone to get behind a target you haven't even set for yourself, or to see a target that you haven't clearly painted. That was our biggest fights, if I'm honest. Not about money, about the absence, about me being physically home, but mentally still at work, with nothing concrete to actually share about why it had to be that way. So here's the shift. Stop running around with the vague goal and start running toward a real number, a real and clear target. Say you want to generate, I always like the example of $1 million. So imagine that you want to generate $1 million a year. That means you need to be making $83,333 a month. Are you? If you're not, then the real question is, what is it going to take? How many clients do you need? How many services do you need to sell? How many offers do you need to have? These are not small questions. They are the questions you should be answering. And once you actually sit down and answer them, something changes. You're no longer going to be working late because business is busy. You're working late because you know exactly what you're working towards. And here's the part that changes your marriage, your relationships with the kids, even the relationship with your loved ones. And not just the profit and loss. Now you can actually share that target with all of them. Share it with your business partners. Share it with whoever you need to share it. Because instead of, I'm just busy right now, you get to say, I'm working late tonight because I need one more client to hit my goal this month. That's a sentence that someone, a loved one, can actually understand. That's a sentence that can be supported by your loved ones. See, clarity isn't just good for your business and taxes. It's what lets the people who love you actually be on the journey with you. Instead of standing on the outside wondering when it ends, because that's what they're doing, just wondering. My coach gave me a concept that was hard to swallow at first. Learn to buy better so that you learn how to sell better. I was like, what the heck does that mean? But really think about it. Think about that for a second. How do we expect to attract clients who pay us properly if we're out there haggling others down on their prices? And you know who you are. It's insane when you say it out loud. You can't build a business rooted in your own value while treating everyone else's value as negotiable. If someone provides you real value, a service, an expertise, their time, pay them properly for it. Not because you have to, because that's the muscle that you are building. The way you buy is the way you'll eventually give yourself permission to sell. That single shift in how I approach spending changed how I approached charging. I stopped seeing my prices as something to apologize for and really started to see them as the thing standing between for my family, being a slogan, and actually being true. Here's what happened next. And it's honestly the reason we're even having this conversation right now. Because once I learned how to sell my services properly, how to charge what I was worth, and actually extract the value I was providing instead of giving it away, I started working with more clients. And the strangest thing happened. I kept seeing the exact same problem I had showing up in client after client after client. Different industries, different backgrounds, totally different businesses entirely. But the same story underneath. Undercharging, overgiving, saying yes when they meant no, exhausted, and calling it just the season we're in. I'd sit across from someone and it was like looking in the mirror from a few years back. So I started taking the time to actually teach them, not just to do the work for them, but coach them through the process, how to raise their prices, how to hold the line. When a client pushes back, how to stop apologizing for the number on your invoice. And watching that shift happen for them over and over did something to me too. It made me realize I was never actually alone in this. And neither were they. And neither are you. That's the reason this podcast exists. Because when you're in it, when you're the one working 24/7, giving discounts nobody asked for, missing dinners, it feels incredibly isolating. Like you're the only one who can't figure this out. Like everyone else somehow got the memo on how to build a business without it swallowing their whole life. But watching client after client walk in carrying the same weight, that weight that I used to carry, taught me something important. A lot of us are working from the exact same limiting beliefs, the same conditioning, the same quiet story that says our worth is tied to how much we give away. So even though the entrepreneurship road can feel incredibly lonely, I get it. But I really need you to hear this. You're not alone. And here's the part that might surprise you. Even the people who look like they've made it, gosh, sometimes they look so good. The ones with the nice office or the packed calendar or the, fancy reels online, they still have areas that they're working on. Nobody has this fully figured out. Me. Not your favorite business influencer. Not the person you're comparing yourself to right now. That's why I wanted to build this podcast. Not to hand you a highlight, another reel, but to really have actual conversations, the hard truths, the slaps in the face, the stuff that doesn't make it into anyone else's social media. Here's something else nobody warns you about. Making more money doesn't automatically solve your problems. Sometimes it creates brand new ones. I see this constantly, especially when it comes to taxes. You finally raise your prices. You finally stop giving discounts. And the revenue goes up. And it feels like a win. Because in reality, it really is. But if you're not also setting money aside, if you're not planning for what you may now owe, that win quickly turns into a tax bill that blindsides you the following year. Suddenly, the very success you worked so hard for is now creating stress you didn't have when you were making less. More money means more decisions. More money means more to track, more to plan, more responsibility around where every dollar goes in the savings, for taxes, for reinvestment, maybe your own even salary. If your systems don't grow alongside your revenue, the money you fought so hard to charge properly can slip right through your hands, and you're left wondering, where did it all go? So part of learning to charge what you're worth has to include learning what to do with what you're now bringing in. Otherwise, you've just traded one kind of stress for another. The part that makes all of this worth it, though? Why I keep doing what I do? There is nothing more satisfying, nothing like the feeling of knowing you're providing value that someone is genuinely glad to pay for. Those are the clients we all need to find, and they do exist, but you won't attract them by shrinking your price to make yourself easier to say yes to, or by pricing out fear. You attract them by being clear about your value and standing behind it, and really letting go of the people who don't see it. Because those clients that walk away just leave room for the clients that will value your service. So back to the question, why did you start your business? If your honest answer is for my family, I want you to ask yourself the hard question that my coach asked me. Is your family currently paying for that answer? In missed dinners? In your phone at the table? In the 24/7 that crept in without you agreeing to it? Because here's the truth. A business for your family that runs on discounts and lowball yeses isn't actually for your family. It's for the client. It's for the fear of losing the deal. It's for that old belief that you have to earn your worth by giving more of yourself away. A business that actually is for your family charges what it's worth, so it doesn't need to eat every hour that you have. So this week, 2 things. First, before you say yes to a discount, a lowball offer, or a can you just do it for a little less, pause. Really pause and ask yourself one question. If my kids had to pay the price for this yes, will I still say yes? Second, sit down and do the math. What's your actual number? Not more, a real number. Then break it down. Break it down monthly, weekly, by client, by offer, but write it down and share it with the person you're building this for. Let them in on the target, not just the tiredness. We say we're building for our families, but if we're not honest about what that building is costing them, we're not protecting the very thing we set out to protect. Ask yourself, who's really paying? And make sure it's not the people you started this for. Share this episode with that solopreneur, small business owner that needs to hear this message. And remember, like and follow for more real conversations and hard truths.